Viewers and subscribers, welcome back to Beating the Press podcast. I am your host, Rafa. Now, coming up in this evening's podcast, we're going to be reviewing the two big games which took place over the weekend. First up, Liverpool running away 3-0 winners over Brentford. And of course, what could be classified as the game of the season thus far, Chelsea holding Man City to a 4-4 draw. Now, joining me this evening to review these two matches, we have returning to the podcast, Christophe.
Good to be back again, viewers.
Yes, indeed, Christophe. And, two big games which took place over the weekend. We're going to jump straight into it. Liverpool running away 3-0 winners over Brentford. A shock result for me personally. I was anticipating a Brentford upset. But how did you see this game, Christophe?
As I had predicted before, a Liverpool win. I think I had said 2-0 was a scoreline, but went and got one more, so 3-0 to the Liverpool. Brentford, while they do come to the big teams with a game plan to stop them, stop how they play, I did say Liverpool just had too much firepower for Brentford to deal with. Um, it might have been a different story had they had Ivan Toney, but this is just the result that it is right now. Player Salah is just too good. It's becoming the norm for him to just get an Anfield double at this point. So I don't know. But what was your take on the game?
Yeah, as I said, it was a surprising result for me. I had anticipated a Brentford upset, just by the way. Brentford have been setting up against the bigger teams, as well as Liverpool's, defensive fragilities. They have been leaking goals. I mean, week before last, they did leak against Luton, that one ending in a 1-1 draw. But Anfield seemed to be a fortress, and with the team behind them, it seemed to elevate their performance. And even more shocking was the fact that they did not concede. I mean, watching the game, Brentford had enough chances to really score, to be honest. Brentford did miss a few big chances, which, on a different day, it could have been a different result. But, Liverpool pretty much made them pay for all these misses. And at the end of the day, walking away, comfortable winners, 3-0, pretty much pushing up in the league table currently. And, with the international break coming up, 2 weeks without football, this should give managers to really an opportunity to assess the season thus far, work players back in who have been injured and, further cement in sort of philosophy and sort of work rate that you're looking for from players. But it's a good result for a Liverpool fan. Just a shocking one for me, looking on before the game. But, I welcome the win. Any 3 points these days is a welcome 3 points. And it's getting very tight at the top of the table. But we move. And I mean, we're just looking forward to getting, injured players. Gravenbach, for example, had picked up a knee injury back into the fore and, putting in a run into Christmas. The games are still coming thick and fast. But I mean, tactically, Christoph, did you see anything different from either team? Of course, we saw, Brentford with their usual back five, but was there anything outstandingly different from the way these teams usually play?
I thought the Liverpool midfield worked a lot harder than I've seen them playing in the few recent weeks, especially compared to last week. I don't know if Klopp lit a fire under them, threatened to drop players or something, but there was definitely much more hard work from the midfield, covering the defense. We expected that Brentford would have tried to attack down the flanks, especially that left-hand side. I was expecting maybe the right-hand side. I'm not sure I saw enough of that. Maybe they just did not have enough quality in those wide areas against this Liverpool team.
Yeah, and I mean, the usual thing was Liverpool really dominated the ball. And of course, Brentford tried to put up a stout defensive, show, but, to no avail. I mean, even that first goal from Salah, it was a classic Liverpool break, winning the ball high up and then two, three passes into Salah to finish, you could say, from a tight angle. And I mean, it just speaks to the quality of the player, in all honesty. Not many players in the league or even globally. It's finishing from those positions with such accuracy, calmness, and precision. And I
Right.
think that goal typified the Liverpool performance up to that point. It was definitely, as you say, a more aggressive press from the Liverpool midfield, a more energetic approach to the game. And to me, Christoph, though, I think this energy comes from the crowd. Away from home, you're not seeing that sort of energetic performance. But once it comes to Anfield, that's when you see the true Liverpool come to the fore. But I mean, if a team like Liverpool harbor any title ambitions, they have to be beating teams like Luton. Imagine if Liverpool had gotten 3 points versus Luton, backed up with a 3 points. No, going
Top
into
of the
this
table.
international break, they could have been leading the league and putting pressure on the likes of Man City and Arsenal. But
Yeah,
it's
good enough.
it's those sort of drop points which tend to cost teams, their title ambitions.
Do you think maybe going into the Luton game, the Liverpool players were perhaps overconfident?
I just think Luton put up a good showing. Luton to me came with a good game plan, and they got the go-ahead goal, which they would have anticipated. That goal went according to the script, in my opinion, catching Liverpool cold on the break. And it was just a case where they just could not hold out defensively. And, inspired Diaz came off the bench and managed to grab an equalizer. But, I was anticipating a similar type of show from Brentford. But for me, Brentford created the chances, even in the fourth minute, the first big chance that Brentford missed. That could have really given them a foothold in the game, and it would have been a different ball game for Liverpool if Brentford had managed to take that lead. Believe in the fourth minute, I'm not sure the player, but he missed a glorious opportunity to bring one up, and pretty much as early as it was in the fourth minute, it was pretty much the game because thereafter it was Liverpool. And even though Brentford did create a few more openings again, you know, Alisson came to the fore and saving a couple real chances. So to me, it was the lack of quality finishing from the Brentford team. And earlier you made a link to Ivan Toney. I mean, once Ivan Toney is in this team, it's a totally different Brentford team. Chances are they would have been higher up in the table. So they are definitely missing their talismanic striker there. And we are hearing that, links to the likes of Arsenal coming up in the January window. But Christoph, what are your thoughts on Ivan Toney as a striker? I mean, we know he's suspended currently, but as a player, as a number nine, how do you see him?
I mean, last season he did play very well, but playing very well one season is not necessarily a recommendation to play for a team like Arsenal or say even Man City. You must show there's a level of consistency that is needed. Um, and a level of discipline. You can't be, playing for Arsenal, Man City, Chelsea, and you're getting suspended for gambling. Like it's a bit ridiculous. Personally, if I was a manager, I would not be looking to Ivan Toney for a purchase like that because if these disciplinary issues continue, then it's going to be money wasted.
But I mean, disciplinary issues aside, I mean, just looking at the quality of the player, I mean, in a better team, I'm thinking Ivan Toney is a 20 goal a season striker. And I mean, any top
But he's
club
did
could
did he
really do
not
with his services.
did he not score 20 plus last season?
Right, exactly. Especially in a Brentford team. Imagine him in an Arsenal team where greater number of chances are being created. I
I
mean,
I I do think he would be an upgrade on both Jesus and Eniketia at the moment, but there is that issue of the if he's going to be, am I going to spend 80 million on a striker and then he does something stupid and get banned for 10 games, 20 games, or the rest of the season?
well, I mean, sometimes it's those sort of risk one needs to take, in order to lift the title. I mean, I believe last season, Lukaku, I believe, no, sorry, Ronaldo became available. And, pundits were saying, hey, Why doesn't Arteta reach out to Ronaldo and bring him in the team to really bolster that team? I mean, looking back now in hindsight, it could have probably worked, it could have backfired, but I mean, these are the sort of gambles sometimes in order to win titles. And to me, it's a gamble I would take if I was Arteta in this sort of season, especially if Gabriel is gonna be out, long term. The deeper you go in the season, the tighter, the stiffer the competition becomes, and the more your squad is called upon. So bolstering your squad with a quality striker such as Ivan Toney, I think will augur well for you. But I mean, looking at this Liverpool team, though, Christophe, let's turn our that focus back to the Liverpool game. I mean, looking at the Liverpool team, do you see any type of ambitions at this stage in the season? Or they're just huffing and puffing?
Um, I wouldn't say that. Right now, the top of the table looks very tight. So they are in a position to challenge for the title. The only issue is, will it be injuries or inconsistencies that defeat them? Because we know Liverpool can beat any team in the league. Just like, we know Man City will beat any team, Liverpool will beat any team. Not sure about Chelsea, Tottenham, Manu. Arsenal has the potential to beat any team, but sometimes Arteta tends to overthink it, or the players get complacent. But Liverpool, Man City, in my opinion, can beat any other team in the league. The problem for Liverpool is injuries and inconsistency, especially when defending. They don't have enough energy. The midfield does not provide enough support and cover to those defenders. Ever since who was it that left for PSG? Wijnaldum? Was it Wijnaldum?
Wijnaldum. Yeah,
E-
Genie Wijnaldum.
Ever since Wijnaldum has left, I've noticed that in the Liverpool midfield that they do not get enough cover for the defense. Um, I don't know if Klopp has a plan for that or if he
Yeah, I
will.
mean, bringing in Soboslai, I think Soboslai has been one of the signings of the season thus far, and I think it is his energy that has really sparked this Liverpool midfield. To be honest, he's a true box-to-box type player. Can run, can defend, and can also attack. With a wide range of passing. So I think, as you mentioned, Gini Wijnaldum, he was never replaced when he was sold, and I think Soboslai is his replacement currently. But I think what Liverpool needs in the midfield is a true number six, a real destroyer type defensive midfield player. A defensive midfield player who destroys, but who has enough ball retention skills to really start the Liverpool attack. I think that is what Liverpool currently lacks. McAllister, good ball handler, good deep line playmaker, but I wouldn't classify him as a destroyer. Same thing with Thiago. Very technical, very good on the ball, but again, not the type of physical player who is going to win your the ball in crucial areas. So that type of midfield, I think, is lacking. Same thing with Endo. Endo is the closest thing to that, but I don't believe he is of the quality of, let's say, Moise Caicedo, for example, who plays for Chelsea. And I think that
I
may
mean,
be the undoing of Liverpool
he
going
was on the
forward, as
Liverpool
well as the
radar.
defensive fragilities. Of course, exactly. He was on Liverpool radar, and to me, if we had managed to secure that signing, then I'm sure we would be having a different conversation now. I think Liverpool may very well have been riding high at the top of the league. But more than the midfield, to me, is the inconsistency, as you say, or the fragilities of the defensive backline. More and more Alisson is being called upon to really make critical saves. And I think that is that Klopp has on his hand. I am not sure who is the ideal partner for Van Dijk. Sometimes it's Matip, sometimes it's Kanate. You know,
Harry
whether it's
Maguire.
through injuries or inconsistencies, we need solid tiering. Similar to how Arsenal has Saliba and Gabriel week in, week out. That is what Liverpool needs. You need that solid defensive partnership week in, week out. But for whatever reason, that inconsistency, is currently there. But So far so good. I mean, I'm sure Klopp would have taken this position going into the international break. What, second in the table behind Man City,
Yeah, behind Man City. Yeah, I think second in the table, ahead of Arsenal on goal difference.
right?
Yeah, ahead of Arsenal
But
on goal difference by 1 goal. Yeah.
yeah, for sure. I mean, Klopp would have taken that. But I mean, we move Christoph, and the next big game on the agenda is that 4-4 draw over there at Stamford Bridge. To me, Chelsea shocked the world by holding Man City to a 4-4 draw. And it was just how the game went. It was a magnificent watch for the neutrals. But Christoph, how did you see that one?
It was definitely an interesting game to watch. It's always fun for a neutral to watch when it's a high scoring game, 4-4. Very interesting. Um, I was a bit shocked. Chelsea showed me that they are capable of creating chances and taking those chances that they're
Yeah,
creating.
but I mean, Christoph, from the
But
preview,
you
I
had said
was
it.
consistent.
You
I
had
was
said it. You had
consistently
said it.
saying that
Yes.
Chelsea have been creating chances. It was just a case where the strikers were failing to pretty much finish off these chances.
Right. But I was not convinced that they were able to. But they showed that they're capable of doing it. They showed that they were capable of finishing. I was particularly impressed by Sterling and Cole Palmer. But I must say, Man City looked fragile defensively. So I don't know how much of that was down to Chelsea brilliance or just down to Man City being poor at the back on the day. Um, Perhaps had Rodri not gotten that deflected goal, it might have been a Chelsea victory.
Yeah, it was a back and forth game, to be honest. It was a ebb and flow, so to speak. Chelsea definitely showed some fight, in front of their home fans, to be honest. Tactically, there is something there for Pochettino. I think Pochettino has now homed in on what you classify as his best 11. I think that midfield trio of Enzo Caicedo and Gallagher seem to be working. And similarly with the attacking trio as well, Sterling had what I would say probably was a man of the match type performance in that one. And of course, Cole Palmer, he grabbed all the attention with that ice cold penalty against his former employers as well. So that was the bit sweeter. And of course, Jackson, following up on his hat trick against Spurs, managed to get on the score sheet as well. But again, Christoph, as I've been saying, this I've been watching this Chelsea team all season. They have been getting the chances. The problem was, or the problem is, they were failing to take their chances. But it's as if both defenses in this one went to sleep, allowing 4 goals, between them, eight goals split down the middle. I'm sure Pep would have been feeling some sort of way because technically, that Rodri goal was supposed to shore up the victory only for that late penalty to really bring things back to a 4-4 draw. And it was a magnificent game. It was a ebb and flow to the game. It was a high quality game. Both teams were looking to play the football. And even though Man City, I would say, had the greater control of the game, they were not left to rest. It was a constant pressure by the Chelsea team, and you can definitely see the ways of Pochettino coming to the fore. Little by little, his influence is now starting to show in this team, and this scoreline may very well be a testament to the sort of progress that Chelsea have been making. And given now the international break, given now a 2 weeks window for Pochettino to bring those players back into the fold who have been nursing injuries, for example, James, this is an opportunity for James to work on his fitness and get back into a high level type of playing. Cole Palmer, again, one of the bright sparks for Chelsea. But, I'm sure City would have left this one feeling disappointed. I mean, Christoph, who would you think would have left this game feeling as if They lost 2 points rather than gaining a point.
I would probably say Man City because Pep probably and even Man City, the players, they probably expect to win 95% of the games they go into. And having gone one up at the end there, thanks to that deflected Rodri goal, to give away a penalty so late, it's difficult, you know. Um, if I was City, I think City would be more disappointed than Chelsea. Chelsea Chelsea was probably was given no chance by us mostly, and
Yeah, I mean, all
it
three of us pretty much called for a Man City win, so I
right,
must be the first one to put my hands up. I definitely got that one wrong, you know. This
right.
was a shocking result for me, but it was a great game for the neutrals, to be honest. And as I said, this should be a positive step in the right direction for Chelsea, but this should definitely be cause for concern for Man City. You know, you're beginning to see a little bit of inconsistency per se, especially from a defensive point of view. So I'm not sure if the transition in terms of the defensive transition, that may very well be where the issue is for this Man City. Because what you find is that they tend to play four at the back, but then in attack, one of those defenders drops in the middle. Now, when you turn the ball over, the defense become lopsided. You know, it becomes a bit more open if you can attack quickly. And we saw where that was the case on a number of occasions. You know, Rodri was caught behind the ball while the Chelsea attackers ran at the Man City defense. One opportunity, I believe it was Cole Palmer, who pretty much ran through the middle, only failing to, to finish that run. And that was the classic case of, Man City being caught out in their transitional defense. So I think possibly teams are beginning to realize that this may be very well be the way to attack this Man City team, try to pressure a turnover in midfield and then quickly transition into their attack. But I'd say there's a little cause for concern. And I mean, the fixtures don't get any easier for Man City because next up is Liverpool. So that's a classic game coming right directly after the international break, a lunchtime kickoff over there in England. So that should be another mouth-watering affair. And that you could classify as a top of the table clash. That result could go a far way in determining the champions of England. Or it could go in the other way. It could open up the door for the likes of an Arsenal or even Aston Villa. Christophe, do you realize that if results for the upcoming weekend after the international break fall the right way, Aston Villa could be leading the league?
Not really, not really,
Yes, check
not
the
really.
table. Check the table.
I
If
don't know.
if Man City and Liverpool
Aston Villa
draw,
is
you,
on
you
25
you have to
points.
put some. It's time now, Christoph. We have to give Aston Villa some credit.
Oh no,
Aston Villa is really punching above their weight.
I give Aston Villa their credit, but the maths is not mathsing. Even if all the games on the weekend draw or the big teams lose or whatever, Aston Villa still doesn't go top because goal difference would beat them.
Well, who to tell? Who to tell? The ball is running. Maybe they can drop a 8-0 like Newcastle did in the season. But I mean, you have to now start looking at teams like Aston Villa, which is really parading below the radar, but really pumping out some good results. And their points tally. They're rubbing shoulders with the big boys at the top of the league. I mean, the
Indeed,
numbers don't lie.
they are they are playing way above expectation under Unai Emery. Um, but we are just 12 games in and we still have a lot of football to be played. So they are doing really well now, but there there are still a lot of big games to be done. They have to have that staying power, consistency. It's something to look at again, maybe mid-season to see where they're at. But at the moment, playing very well. A lot of credit to the players, a lot of credit to Unai Emery. Same thing with Newcastle, a lot of credit to the manager. A lot of
Well,
credit to the players.
speaking of Newcastle though, Christoph, Newcastle seem to be on the rails, losing to Bournemouth with what I would classify as a skeleton squad. This must be real cause for concern.
Uh, it depends on how long their players are going to be out for. I'm not sure of the injury times that they are facing at the moment.
Well, a number of players are looking at some long-term injuries. Dan Burn, for example, should be out long-term. Batman, another top defender right there. And of course, Tonelli, have been banned for
But
10 months for, gambling. So a number of big name players are out, and it's youngsters we see taking the field for Newcastle because all their first team players have some issues with a suspension or injuries. And losing in the Champions League, and then of course losing to Bournemouth. This has to be cause for concern. They're slipping now into mid-table territory, and they could be there for quite a while if players don't return from for fitness purposes. So definitely keep an eye out for Newcastle there, as things are not looking too rosy over there at all. But Man City still up there at the top of the league. Chelsea 10th in the league, on a little rise. So hopefully, let's see if they can maintain and pick up some further results. Let's not hope it's a case where they take 2 steps forward and then take 2 steps backward. But early days, as you say, still a long way to go in the season, and they could yet surprise and maybe even have a top four finish. But what's your take on that, Christoph? At this point in time, do you think Chelsea will finish in the top four?
we see that Pochettino has maybe a settled 11, and he's getting the players to play how he wants. He's getting his brand of football down. I think it's still too early to say whether or not Chelsea will make it to top four. Uh, if they continue putting in the performances that they have been doing over the last 2 or 3 games, then they will finish just outside of the top four because even though they're on a rise, they still look very inconsistent. Uh, they'll need to shore up the defense. That they have shown that they can find the goals. Now they need to sort out their defensive issues that they're having. Um, hopefully, Man City has defensive issues this season, and Liverpool beats them next week, next 2 weeks, I hope. Tottenham, I think, is doing Tottenham things again. So, losing,
Yeah,
just doing Tottenham things.
the one game, one weekend seemed to have derailed Tottenham season completely at this point. Suspensions coupled with injuries, and it seemed as if this early run has come to an end. And we
Might
see
have.
Wolves, taking them quite late in that game. Two very late goal, resulting in a Wolves victory. And, Tottenham have really dropped in the standings. But I think this 2-week international break
Yeah,
comes at the perfect time for Spurs,
it
for
does.
them to, work some players back to fitness, and for,
They get
Angie
the
to really
opportunity to
try to,
reassess.
right, exactly, to reassess and wheel and come again, so to speak. So it should be interesting to see how Tottenham comes out from the international break. Will they sink or will they swim? That's one thing we definitely need to keep a close eye on. But Christoph, in terms of the rest of the results of this weekend, what's your take?
Um, most of the other results went as expected. Arsenal winning a bottom three team is not really a cause for concern or to say, hey, maybe they found the formula. In my opinion, what they have found is that Trossard seems to be a more effective centre forward than both Eddie and Gabriel Jesus. He stays fit. He is he makes an impact and he does well dynamically. He is not stagnant up front. He dovetails well with both Bakayo Saka and Gabriel Martinelli. He's scored in both games that he started up front and assisted in both games. So um I've seen people say it's a selection dilemma. I don't think it's a dilemma. If he's playing well, play him.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, he has definitely taken the opportunity he has been given, always really coming on as an impact sub. But in those last two games which he has started, he has been producing. So that might definitely be something Arteta has to now take into consideration, where he now becomes the first choice option. And maybe Nketiah is the one coming off the bench. As you mentioned, he adds more dynamism to that Arsenal attack, a bit more interchangeability with the likes of a Martinelli. And as a result, you may see greater productivity in terms of goal scoring chances and, finishing off goals as well. So,
Right.
a good result for Arsenal, keeping pace at the top of the table. Still worse off than they were at this stage
Last
when
season.
compared to last season.
Right.
But it's a different season. It's a different, no, teams involved in the title race, and they're pretty much keeping pace, so far so good, making a good comeback, Aston Villa won also. So another good victory there for Aston Villa, again keeping pace at the top of the table. But Manchester United pulled out a 1-0 victory over Luton, courtesy
Rather
of a
embarrassing.
Lindelof strike. Did you see much of that game, Christoph?
Uh Poor. It was poor from Manchester United. Not to take away from Luton's performance, but this is and I don't know if I can how poor I can say Manchester United are because technically not technically they have 21 points. They're in sixth place, so it's also not that bad. But Luton is bottom of the table. To be barely scraping 1-0 against them seems a bit ludicrous for the great Manchester United.
But I
Um
mean, this is the same team that drew with Liverpool, just last week as well. So, I mean, some sort of credit must be given to Manchester United. I mean, at the end of the day, it's still 3 points. So, I mean, maybe they're not playing at their optimum, but the important thing is they keep the points tally ticking over and another 3 points in the bag. It might have
yeah,
been a different case if they ended with a draw or a loss.
but here's the thing. Teams like Manu, Liverpool, Chelsea, um, always play well. Even if they've been in poor form all season, once it comes to these big rivalry matches, they always play well. They always look like, yep, they look impressive. I don't know why. It's when they go away to the lesser teams that they struggle for some reason. I don't know
Yeah,
if
indeed.
these
And I
these
mean,
rivalry matches galvanizes them or
that seemed to be the case. I was recently reading a stats on Arsenal as well, and Arsenal has taken the most points from what top six teams, but yet they're in third. So it simply means that they are losing or dropping points to the lesser teams as well.
right.
So I think that is what determines champions, though, Christoph. Can you beat the big teams, but also take maximum points from those lesser teams and not let your standards drop? And I think over the years, that has been what Man City had managed to do. Keep pace or not lose to the big teams, but keep if either Liverpool, Arsenal can manage to to the title. But for me, still at this point in the season, it is still Man City that is really the team to beat. And, with Liverpool versus Man City coming up, if Liverpool have any sort of title ambitions, this is a game Liverpool has to win. I don't think you can call yourself champions come end of season if you're unable to beat the current champions. So this is an opportunity for Liverpool to really prove that they are indeed on a path of going for the EPL title. You can't be asking Brentford or Newcastle or Burnley to beat Man City when you have the opportunity to do it now. That option is now in your hands, so you have to go out there and put in the work and get the results. And to me, this is the prime opportunity. If Liverpool have any sort of title ambitions, this game is a game they must go for the win. But final words, Christoph, we are quickly running out of time. Any final word going into this international break?
Um, I I fancy Liverpool to beat Man City on the return. My only concern is Darwin Núñez still looks very inconsistent when presented with chances. Maybe putting him back out on the left wing might be more advantageous to Liverpool, where he seems to get more goals out there and he's more effective. He can run at players, be more direct. Salah will always get goals. He's Salah. Um, that is for them. But yeah, this is an opportunity for Liverpool to beat City, go ahead and go top of the table. It's also an opportunity for other teams. Arsenal can maybe capitalize on a draw or even a draw, or even a Man City loss if they get enough goals in the next game to go ahead and goal difference. Never know. Tottenham needs to reassess. United needs some reassessing, a lot of reassessing. I need to figure out what's happening there, the discipline, what's going on with the fluidity, what's happening with your big name players not performing, the Rashford, your Anthony's, need to assess what deadweight needs to be chopped from the side coming this January transfer market coming. You can't just keep buying players and hoping that, eventually you'll find somebody to patch up things. It's not going to work long term. Decide how you want to play. Get the players to play in that role. Don't just buy players because you're familiar with them. I think that's a sign of a bad manager. Um, but yeah, I don't expect any shocks. Hopefully key players for the big teams stay fit over this international break. Arsenal and Liverpool tend to have a lot of bad luck when it comes to international break. So hopefully that's not the case. Hopefully
Yes,
Saka is fit.
indeed. I mean, yeah, we can only hope that, they remain fit and there are no, massive injuries coming back after the break. But I mean, there you have it, viewers and subscribers. Again, thanks for tuning in to us here on Beating the Press podcast. Of course, international break coming up, so there will be 2 weeks without any EPL action. But stay tuned to us. We may very well have a surprise or two during this international break. But Christoph, I'd just like to thank you again for coming on board and, of course, sharing your profound thoughts and comments. Thanks for passing through. But viewers, please remember to continue to help us to grow the platform, continue to share, like, and if you haven't subscribed as yet, please hit that subscription bell. But until next time, this is Rafa signing off.